Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Handy Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters. Robert Kaufman Fabrics, quality fabrics for quilting. Sulky, express yourself with Sulky and create with confidence. Brother, it's so easy with Brother at your side. And The Warm Company, inspiring products for creative people. Hi, and welcome to Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community. I'm Mary Kate Carpetras, and we're back again with our guest, Patrick Lose, as part of our 12-part series. And today we're going to be focusing on finishing fusible applique with satin stitching.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that it could be finished. A lot of people like to use buttonhole stitch. Some people like raw edge applique, but most often I use satin stitching. And I have several different ways to do it, but one of the things that I'm always asked in classes when I travel to teach is how to satin stitch points on corners, outside corners and inside corners on stars especially, because they're a little bit tricky.
They can get really messy looking.
Yeah, and that's a sign of really good satin stitching is when if your points are clean and crisp, the rest of it, they don't pay any mind to. The main thing with this is I found a product that I love to use, and it's Sulky's Tear Easy Stabilizer. And there's several reasons that I like this. First of all, it's not too heavy. We're going to be putting this behind the appliques. Just cut a sheet the size that you need to put behind the appliques. And it's not too heavy, so it's easy to maneuver under the needle. But on top of that, it has a slickness to it, so that as you're turning and maneuvering, it's not grabbing the table or anything like that. So it's just very easy to maneuver. Nice. The other thing, just technical things about my satin stitching, I most often use a 2.5 stitch width and a 2.0 stitch length. Okay. So that gives it a nice uniform look. Sometimes if you're doing tight curves and things like that, it might be, you might want to reduce that down to like 1.5 for your stitch width. Okay. The wider the stitch width, the harder it is to turn and make neat, clean turns on curves and things like that. Okay. So, but to start on a star, and I'm going to be stitching here with black thread just so that it's a nice contrast and you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to start actually on a straightaway instead of at either corner because I want to be able to stop and do the corners. So let me first just get centered here. And I'm also using an open toe presser foot, and that's really important if you have one to use it because that needle is in clear view. I have no obstruction at all. I can see exactly what the needle is going to be doing. So another tip of mine, pull your thread tail to the front and stitch over it, because then you don't have a little tail that someone can come along and pull and all of a sudden your satin stitching is all unwound. So I try to do it like that. And the key to this is making sure that as you're stitching and zigzagging, you're going over the raw edge of the fabric.
Right, okay.
So you want to set the raw edge right against, in this case, there's a red line on the open toe presser foot that denotes the center, and that's where I want to line that up with. Now, as I'm getting to the outside point, this is one of the things, I'm going to stitch past it just a couple of stitches. I'm going to have my needle in the down position. I am going to need to raise it, but I usually start with it in the down position so that it ends that way, and then stop, a few stitches. You're going to pivot to come down the other side of the star, but on an outside corner, you have to raise the needle. If you start stitching now, you're going to be stitching out to the outside of the star. So I have to raise the needle, and it's going to pop into the position, and then I'm going to just drop it right back down into the same hole. And now that when I start stitching, it's going to start stitching to the left of the star.
Okay.
So we'll be in the right position. Okay, I'm going to stop here because as we approach the inside corner, we want to stitch past the point, the actual point of the corner, by like 3 stitches. The width of your stitching is about half the width of your stitching is what you want to stitch past that line. Okay. And I'll show you why here. Let's get to that point. Okay, just a few stitches beyond the point, and I'm going to stop, always with the needle in the left position.
Okay.
If you do that, you can't do the next side wrong. I mean, it'll end up perfect. So now I'm just going to pivot.
Promise.
Yeah, I promise. You just pivot, and you're in position to just go.
Okay.
So it makes it very quick and easy. Okay, I've stopped just a couple of stitches beyond the outer corner again. Now see how nice that point is there? I could actually tighten this up a little bit, but I'm going to show you another little trick. I can fix that too.
Okay.
So, and here we go. We'll do another side. I'm going to lift the needle again. It pops over into the right position so that I can drop it down into the hole that it just came out of. Then we're ready to stitch. Once again, we're going to stitch just a few stitches beyond that point. Stop in the left position, pivot, and just go. And I'll just do one more here. Now, I'm going to show you, though, that it doesn't matter on the outside corners what point, which side of the needle you stop at, because we're going to have to raise it anyway. Now it pops over into the left, so I just move it over to the left and drop the needle back down into that hole.
Okay.
I'm not going to stop at this next inside corner. I'm going to show you how fast you can get going. And honestly, satin stitching works better the faster you go.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, the slower you go, while that split second that the needle is up, you could move this, and then all of a sudden your next stitch down is going to be out of line.
Okay.
So you get little jags in the stitching. Okay, let's. There we go. Inside corner, just a few stitches in, stop in the left position, and go. And again, stop left. And I might as well just go ahead and finish the star.
Well, once you get your rhythm, it looks like you could just whip through it really quickly.
It was something that I dreaded doing. I really needed to learn it and not have other people stitching my designs for me. And I tell everyone when I'm teaching them, it's usually, by the time I sat down and actually got started doing it, it only took me about a week, really, to get what I felt was good at it and to be moving faster and, to the point where I didn't feel like, oh, I'm never doing this again. Okay, and then if you just overlap your ends, you can usually make it meet up fairly nicely from beginning to end there. And I'm going to click on the stop button. That'll kind of knot off my last stitches there. And this actually, it looks pretty good. There's a few spaces that I'd probably be a little picky about, but I'm very picky about my satin stitching, and there's no, this looks perfectly good, but I have a trick that I always try to teach in class, and everybody kind of goes, oh, seriously, you're going to do that? Yeah, I am going to do that. All you have to do is take a Sharpie marker, and if you're working with black thread, although now there's all different colors of Sharpies too, so you can get them to match your thread. Sure. But just barely touching that fabric, if there's a space that is a little bit off, if you just barely touch the fabric, and if it's a larger spot that you need to kind of cover up, if you really went off track, and you're going to have to use more ink, blow on the tip of the marker as you're doing it, because you don't want that marker to bleed into the applique. So. No one will know the difference. So.
Not at all.
So that's
great.
satin stitching, and I know you wanted to learn that.
I
do
do.
you think you could do it?
I do. I was wondering what the effect is when you have done the satin stitching without some sort of lining. Or
It's going to pucker up, and
puckered.
you know what?
Do you ever do it with batting?
You know, I do, and a lot of people don't understand why I do that. But I can stitch through, you know, once I have the appliques and everything, I can satin stitch through all the quilting and everything on the piece, and then it's one less step that you have to do, because when you're doing this satin stitching, you still have to go back and put your batting in, sandwich that, and then do your quilting, and you're going to have to quilt around each of these appliques also. So it's an extra, you're going to stitch around those twice.
Right.
But if you do it with all your batting and everything done, then you just stitch it once and you're finished.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
And especially things, you know, I tell students, when you're doing table toppers or placemats or things that go against a wall, who really cares what the back looks like? These are supposed to be fun pieces, have fun doing them. If you invite someone to your house for dinner and they decide they're going to be peeking under the table runner at the dinner table, you don't have to invite them again.
No, then they get what they deserve.
That's right.
So
yeah,
that's great. Well, thank you.
You're
That's very
welcome.
helpful.
It's very simple.
Appreciate it. Okay. Well, did you want to? We have somebody we want to thank.
We started to tape this segment today, and the foot for my machine didn't want to work. So we had no power to the machine whatsoever. So we called the local Viking shop, and I have a card here from Judy. This was in Joanne's, I believe it was Judy. And she loaned us personally her foot pedal for her machine. So we want to thank Judy.
Her machine from home, I believe.
Yeah, it was her machine from home. We went to the store, and the store didn't have one that we could use, so she went home and got her foot for her machine. And we're really appreciative.
Thank you
Thank you
very
Judy.
much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all for watching. If you want to see any of our other videos, go to quiltersnewsletter.com. Thanks so much. See you next time. Quilters Newsletter TV, the Quilters community, is brought to you by Handy Quilter, designed by a quilter for quilters. Robert Kaufman Fabrics, quality fabrics for quilting. Sulky, express yourself with Sulky and create with confidence. Brother, it's so easy with Brother at your side. And The Warm Company, inspiring products for creative people.